Thank you very much for inviting me to present some information on Dominion Energy smart meter deployment, primarily in our Virginia service territory. We do have a project going on in our South Carolina territory as well. I'm not as familiar with that, but I do know what's going on. My name is Robin Massanopoli, excuse me, and I am the manager at what we call our metering solutions group here at Dominion Energy Virginia. My team has essentially, it's kind of a weird team. We essentially have responsibility for all metering technology, both the hardware in the field, the network communications, the back office systems, everything for all of the meters. We have both the legacy meters and the AMI systems. For some reason, we also got responsibility before I came to the group for deploying the AMI system and smart meters across our territory. Not really sure how that fell to this group, but yeah. So that's what I'm going to be focused on talking about today is our smart meter deployment. Again, primarily in Virginia. Oddly enough, what we typically refer to as DEV or Dominion Energy Virginia also has responsibility for about 125,000 meters in North Carolina. It's the very northern tip of North Carolina where it borders Virginia from Roanoke Rapids over to the East Coast, including Outer Banks. So you can't, just as a rule, you can't go on vacation to the Outer Banks here and get out of storm duty. You have to go farther away. Little tip for everyone. All right, carrying on. Just really quickly, just to make sure everybody understands how advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, works. AMI and smart meters, the terms are used interchangeably. But AMI is the overarching system of meters and network devices that comprise this advanced metering infrastructure. The meters, and there's a lot of misunderstandings where this is concerned. The meters talk to each other through radio frequency signals. They send data through neighboring meters. Eventually, the data reaches a network device. We have two different types of devices out there. Some are called repeaters, some are called collectors. The repeaters just extend the RF. When you get into situations where you've got one neighborhood, the meters all talk to each other. You've got another neighborhood a little ways away, those meters all talk to each other, but we need to bridge the gap between the two neighborhoods. Sometimes we'll do that with what we call a repeater installed somewhere in between the two neighborhoods so they can bridge the gap there. And then eventually, less often, typically, the data will report to a collector, which picks up the data from the RF mesh network and sends it via, in our case, cellular communications to the back office system. So that's typically the architecture of an AMI system network, field network. There's a lot of different terms thrown around. You may start hearing about things like smart cities, smart street lights, things like that. Those are other devices that can be installed in the area that also have a compatible communications device that will communicate on this RF mesh with meters, and eventually the data will come back to the back office through the same network. Essentially, or incidentally, this is a two-way communication network. We can also send information to the meters. We can reprogram them over the air in many cases. We can turn them on or off over the air. And we can collect quite a variety of data from the meters that we could not collect in legacy metering systems, including detailed energy usage throughout the day, voltage, power quality, things like that. We'll talk about some of those use cases for what you can do with the data a little bit later. So any questions so far? Any questions along the way, please feel free to stop me and ask them in line with the presentation. All right, carrying on. Just a little sort of history or state of the union, if you will, I guess, on smart meter deployments throughout the country. We are behind, if anything. We certainly are not on the leading or bleeding edge of smart meter deployment in the country. We are, I'm happy to say now, catching up very quickly. But as of about 2020, over 75% of households in the US had smart meters already. 58 IOUs had already fully deployed, and Virginia was between the 15 and 50% mark. We just earlier this year crossed the 50% mark for the DEV deployment. So we are well on our way. Last year, this year, and next year are big, huge years for us. We have plans to deploy over 500,000 smart meters a year, all 3 years. We did some prior to that, and we have a few left to do in 2024, but we do plan, as you'll see later, to be largely done by 2024 here at DEV.
Robin, we have a couple questions coming into the chat here. I just wanted to call out while we were on
okay, great.
that last slide and this slide. One question was, does the repeater stream data continuously, or is it batching and calling home, you know, every 15 minutes, every half an hour at an interval? Every 15 minutes, every half an hour at an interval.
That's a great question, and the system is configurable, so different utilities may have it set at different intervals or settings. For us here at DEV, the meters record interval energy usage every 30 minutes, and we pull that energy usage back about every 4 hours. We are in the process of deploying what we call voltage profiles. We will be collecting 15-minute recordings on the meters for a voltage reading and pulling those back every 4 hours as well. And we stagger the pulls so that we're not trying to pull everything at the same time. You know, so we might pull usage readings at, I'm making this up, 8, 12, 4, etc., and voltage readings at 10, 2, 6, etc. Does that help? So the meters record, and then the network. I think that's a good answer. Yeah, the network pulls the information or reads the information, all of which is configurable through meter programming and job programming on the AMI head-end system to do the pulls or the reads. Was there another question?
There were a couple of other questions, and I'm actually going to jump in as the moderator. I'm Rebecca Hoy from Virginia Energy Efficiency Council, so I'm going to be fielding some of these questions as well. We have a question from Carrie Webster with Henrico County. She asks, when you say they collect detailed data, are they as detailed as interval meters that would be required for purposes like Schedule 10 rate 132 or demand response? Schedule 10 rate 132 or demand response.
Yes. They are, I think, exactly the same as what our legacy walk-up IDR or interval data recorder meters were. The difference is now we don't have to go walk up to them.
Great. There are 2 more questions I see. One is from Brian King. He asks, is the AMI network exclusive to the metering devices, or will it also be used for smart devices such as switches, reclosers, etc.?
Very good question. For Dominion right now, it is exclusive to meters, and we have started installing smart streetlights. Our AMI system is compatible with a wide variety of other devices. I don't know for a fact what of those devices Dominion may or may not choose to use with integration with the AMI system. But our AMI system, it's the iTron Gen X system, and it does have quite a wide variety of compatible devices, should we choose to use them.
Hey, thank you. Adam Sled with DEIC asks, are you able to talk about why we are behind relative to other states? This is relevant to the next slide, the AMI deployment.
Sure. Quite simply, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, obviously, right? We changed from a full-on system that was walk-up meter reading to what was called AMR, or advanced meter reading, which is essentially the drive-by vans or whatever, especially equipped vehicles, go through the neighborhoods and pick up the readings from meters driving by, right? So we went from full walk-up to largely AMR around late 90s, early 2000s. So when AMI came out, we experimented with it and in fact did some deployment around the 2009-2012 timeframe. But quite simply, we couldn't make the business case because we had, just 10 years before installed all these AMR meters that were working. They didn't give us the data that AMI gives us. They didn't give us the functionality that AMI gives us, but we had made a big investment in that AMR system only 10 or 12 years before. And so we make a business case, quite frankly. So roll forward another 8 or 10 years, those meters were projected to survive roughly 50 to 20 years. So we're reaching end of life. There's a lot more reasons, a lot more use cases for the functionality that AMI provides today with all the renewable energy on the grid. You really need that more detailed data, that voltage data. You'll see, again, I have some slides here with some of the use cases for the AMI data. Those use cases grew, more time passed, and the AMR system got closer to end of life. We were able to make the business case quite simply more recently, and we were not able to make it earlier.
We have one more question, and you may address this later in your presentation. So if you are going to, just tell me that. We have a question that when does Dominion Energy Virginia expect 100% of homes to have AMI?
Somewhere in the 2024 timeframe. You will see that a little bit later in the presentation.
Great. So that's all the questions we have up to date. So if you want to move on, I can read off when we have more.
Okay, great. All right. So we've talked a little bit already about the use cases, or we refer to them typically as benefits of smart meters. Can you all see my screen again at this point? Okay. I'm seeing something different on the meeting screen, so keep me honest here. I already mentioned we get meter readings remotely. We no longer have to send people into the neighborhoods to either drive by or walk up to collect what we call usage information, or the amount of electricity people are using. And these meters enable us for all smart meters to get the detailed energy usage. Previously, with the AMR system, AMR only collects that once a month reading. So previously, anyone who was on what we call a time of use rate, or a more complex rate, had to have a walk-up meter. That was still the only way we could collect that detailed energy usage to use for time of use rates or complex rates. Now we get that data from every single meter remotely without any vehicle traffic, any people exposed on the roads or walking around the neighborhood. So there's safety factors there as well. Additionally, as I mentioned already, we can turn the meters on and off without having to send anybody out there. Again, fewer trucks on the road, less emissions, safer. And frankly, more responsive to customer needs. If somebody is moving in or out, you don't have to call 2 weeks ahead and schedule that. We've actually started in the last year or two doing more same day orders, which we basically couldn't do before. I mentioned already the detailed data gives us a lot of new rate options. We launched our first modern time of use residential rate since I think the 70s last year. You may have heard of the off-peak plan being available to those who have an AMI meter. I'm on it myself, and you can save money trying to shift your electricity usage to off-peak times. You're going to pay a premium if you're using electricity during peak times. The point of that is, from a system-wide point of view, it reduces our system peak. So hopefully we don't have to build as much generation and whatnot. We have to be able as a company to meet that peak. If we lower that peak, we lower what we need to do in order to be able to meet it. Saves money for everybody. And then additionally, power outage detection. One of the other things smart meters can tell us, I don't think I've mentioned yet, is when your power goes out. It throws what we call a last gasp signal. And our systems, including our outage management system, is able to consume that data and use it for storm restoration. Just real quick, a note over on the side, we have now deployed just over 1.5 million smart meters. We have about 2.7 million customers. So we are a little over halfway there. Even bigger than the direct customer benefits we just talked about, smart meters are really a foundational component of grid modernization or grid transformation. Probably everybody on here knows the power industry, energy industry is trying to transition over to a much more green, renewable source for electricity. And as great as that sounds in theory, there are some actual, in reality, some issues with it. The wind and solar is not stable. It does not generate at a constant rate 24/7. It's variable. And those variations can cause fluctuations on the grid. We need smart meters as end-of-line sensors to be able to monitor the voltage and power quality across the grid. We have some devices on the lines themselves, but they don't give us the granularity that having smart meters deployed and sending back this information will give us. These meters will also enable us to monitor devices on our grid, like transformers and such. We will be able to see where things are overloaded, where things are starting to fail, and we will be able to proactively replace things before failure, which is significantly cheaper. If anybody's ever been involved in outage situations, the scrambling at the last minute for an emergency, it doesn't matter what you're repairing, right? It could be your HVAC system, or it could be something on the grid. It's more expensive to do it in an emergency situation than it is in a planned situation. So this is going to get us to where we can do proactive asset management. Again, we get the near-time outage and restoration messages from our meters, which will improve our storm restoration and customer communications. And in general, again, they meet the evolving expectations across the board, whether it's green energy, advanced rates, demand side management type things, peak time rebates. You just simply can't do that without this level of granularity in the data. Just to give you a couple of data points, this was as of March 31st. The avoided truck rolls associated with our AMI deployment, even though we're only a little more than halfway deployed, we avoided over 44,000 truck rolls in March alone due to AMI. whether that, and this doesn't even include meter reading particularly. This includes the turn-ons and turn-offs, including the same-day orders. It includes what we call found on during storms. Sometimes we roll a truck to a house or a business that we think is out because it was reported out in the system, is still showing it out. But when we get there, the power's on. AMI will tell us that power is back on. We avoided 935 truck rolls in March alone during outage situations because AMI told us the power was on. Then the next line, I know it's a little cryptic, net metering. It's net metering over the air. This is a reprogramming of an AMI meter when someone who has AMI wants to put solar on their rooftop. Before, we had to go change the meter to a net meter. Now we are able to reprogram that meter to be a net meter over the air without a truck roll, without a meter exchange. Just click a button and it happens basically. So as you can see, we are saving money, time. We are being more efficient and serving our customers better, and we're reducing traffic and emissions associated with trucks, and improving the safety of our employees, as well as our customers who would also be on the road a lot, even at this early stage of deployment. So speaking of deployment, this wasn't meant to be an eye test. I'm sorry if it is a little bit of an eye test for you, but the green splotches show our service territory that has already been converted to AMI. I don't know exactly where the folks on the phone are from, but we have done the Richmond. This is all by district office in the world of Dominion Energy. So we've done the Richmond district office and all of our Southside offices. We've done the Petersburg office. We've done Williamsburg, Norfolk, and Hampton. We've done Charlottesville, and we've done Alexandria and Herndon up north. So you can see we're trying to spread it around. The blue is 2022 with the striped going into 2023. Basically, that's what's in progress. We're largely finished in Woodbridge and East Richmond at this point. We are, I don't know, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through Virginia Beach, which is our largest office. And we are actively deploying, just started in the last few weeks in Fredericksburg and Midlothian. So the remainder of the system will begin either later this year. I think we go to Chesapeake and Warrenton. We start those offices a little bit later this year. We'll be getting all our western offices as well as Gloucester, Northern Neck, and Chuckatuck next year. And then there's a little bit to finish up in 2024 in Northern Virginia. And we're also planning to work on our North Carolina offices between 2023 and 24. So target completion for the whole shoot match 2024. Just quickly, a few things regarding AMI deployment and customer communications. We do let our customers know as we're coming out, as we're starting in certain areas, that we are going to be exchanging their meters. A postcard goes out at least 10 business days ahead of the meter exchange. It's usually a little bit longer than 10 days. There's information on the postcard leading them to our website where there's all kinds of information, fact sheets, videos, etc. The day we come exchange the meter, we actually knock on the door of every single customer. And if somebody's home and answering the door, the technician will explain what's going on. There's this door hanger that is provided regardless of whether or not we speak to the homeowner or business owner. We will give them that door hanger regardless. And then there, as I said, there's information on both the postcard and the door hanger about how to get to the website, how to call if you have more questions. You want to talk to somebody about this, you need to schedule an appointment because your meter might not be readily accessible. So there's a fair amount of communications that go on with the customers prior to and I guess during the meter exchange. And there's more information on the website and available with our customer service agents if there are follow-up questions. This is what some of the website content looks like. There's, and these are two-sided information sheets. There's some information on the benefits, most of which we talked about earlier. There's also information regarding data security associated with AMI metering and safety associated with AMI metering. Normally, if customers have a concern, it is one of these two things. It's about, you know, is the data going to be kept secure as it's transmitted across this network? And the radio frequency, some people have a sensitivity to radio frequency. So there's lots of information about that out on our website for
Robin, I'm going to pause you for a second because we have a couple of questions.
I'll just throw it up here. There's the web address. Sure. I think this is the last slide here anyway. How can I help?
Okay, sure, great. We have two questions from DEIC. One is, has there been a priority for determining which localities to do in which order?
Yes. Let me see if I can get back to the map. It's a little bit laggy. So I mentioned earlier that we had started experimenting with AMI and actually done some AMI deployment back in the, I'm going to call it 2010 timeframe. We actually deployed Alexandria and Charlottesville back then and most of Herndon, in addition to some sporadic deployments in Richmond, Midlothian, and Blue Ridge, and I think Williamsburg and Williamston, North Carolina. All of those early deployments were done in such a way to kind of test the system in densely urban areas, not at all densely urban areas like Blue Ridge, you know, mountainous, rural, things like that. There was a CNI or commercial industrial sort of experiment in Midlothian and Richmond to make sure it provided what we needed for our CNI customers. The North Carolina deployment was largely associated with solar. That North Carolina had a big push to get people to install solar down there some years ago, and so we put some AMI meters out there to test its ability to collect the information we needed associated with solar distributed energy resources. Since that time, we kind of were just in a bit of a holding pattern, as I mentioned, trying to make the business case. When we started putting the business case together, we looked at a lot of different factors. One of which was, where are we killing ourselves, if you will, with service orders, these turn-ons and turn-offs that could be done remotely? Where can we get the biggest bang for the operational benefit from smart meters? That was one of the factors. Where, you know, now many years have passed, we have a lot more net metering customers with rooftop solar and things like that. Where are those customers? Where can we target AMI so that we're reaping those benefits associated with solar? And geographically, you know, we wanted to be equitable geographically across the state. We didn't want to give Northern Virginia everything, right? We wanted to spread it around a little bit. So like I said, a lot of factors went into the plan. Those are some of them. I'm not sure I could get into much more detail about that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. They also asked, why would a residential customer want to opt out is probably the main concern. You mentioned also sensitive to sensitivity to radio frequency, but are there other kind of common reasons for opt-out? Are there other kind of common reasons for opt-out?
So radio frequency and data security are the two concerns we hear most often. I would have to say there's, I've heard it all. I hate to put it that way, but I've heard a lot of different reasons. But those two far and away stand out as the two most common. The RF one is very interesting to me personally because often I find we're talking to a customer who's on their cell phone, and as our fact sheet and any research would show, the cell phone is emitting multiple orders of magnitude more RF than a smart meter. It is, I think, at least an order of magnitude, I've forgotten now, less than a baby monitor. It's a couple of orders of magnitude less than a microwave oven. It's negligible, in other words, and it is far below the FCC limits, which that's what we are governed by on the RF stuff is the FCC, right? So yeah, it really is negligible, but some people are just determined that, that you can find anything you want out on the internet to support any position you have, right? So we do have a few amateur research scientists in our customer base. It's some interesting stories there, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'd say those are the two.
Great, thank you. Adam Windsor asks, how would a customer know if they have a smart meter?
That's a good question. So I was going to say the easiest way. I guess it depends on the customer whether or not it's the easiest way. I'm assuming most folks on the phone know that Dominion has a external customer portal called Manager Account. You can go on Manager Account, sign up, create an account. You can see your bill. You can see a lot of stuff about your Dominion Energy relationship. And one of the things you can see out there is whether or not you have a smart meter.
Okay, great. Another question from DEIC. In regards to the business case, is there an opportunity to multitask, to mesh network to carry other types of data and content?
I'm not sure I heard all of that, but I think you're asking about what else could the AMI network be used for. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, there are multiple compatible things, including all of the smart cities things. There's a lot of distribution automation. So we could theoretically control distribution line devices via our AMI network. I think just about everything either has been looked at or is being looked at, is being contemplated or has been contemplated. The network can be used for a lot of other things, but you have to weigh the, there's things like speed and latency. Do you really want a switch, a tie switch on a distribution line, a 34.5 kV distribution line, depending on the AMI network? It may or may not be built for that in certain areas. It's built for meter reading right now. Could it be beefed up to be built for other things? Yes, but there might also be better telecom solutions for those other things other than the AMI network. I think we will be using the AMI network for the smart cities type applications eventually. One of the, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to answer it anyway. One of the, I guess, holdups there is the cities, the municipalities have to come to the table as well, right? We are not interested as an electric company in making Richmond or Norfolk or Alexandria a smart city. If Richmond or Norfolk or Alexandria is interested in being a smart city, they need to come to the table and be ready to partner with us, probably put some funding in there as well. And that stuff's just starting to evolve across the country and in our state. So I do see that. It's a little bit further down the road. We have now a smart, I don't know if she's on this, I think she might even be on this presentation. We have a smart cities program manager in place now at Dominion. So that whole thing is starting to evolve. And I do see that path being followed in the not too distant future. But as far as distribution automation and some of the other things, you know, that's up to the engineers, and I'm not in that group and I can't speak their language very well.
Thank you. We have a question from Carrie Webster. Is there any capability for customers to be alerted to a power outage, for example, after hours? This applies more to commercial and municipality customers than residential.
That's a great question. The short answer is yes. The longer answer involves the fact that our AMI system has to integrate with our outage management system. And our outage management system is older. I'm trying to figure out a polite word to use there. It's older. We are going to be replacing the outage management system in the next few years, as I understand it. And I absolutely believe that once we have a more modern outage management system, the world opens up with customer communications and our benefits and customer benefits associated with storm restoration, outage notifications, restoration notifications, and all that. That said, we are actually actively working on a project today to see if we can bring forth some more of the benefits with our current outage management system, keeping in mind we're going to be replacing it, so we don't want to invest a huge amount of money. But now that we're really rolling out AMI, you know, I don't know that we want to wait another 2 or 3 years to get any more outage benefits from the system. So we are looking at it very hard as we speak, and I have some level of confidence that we will be able to implement some additional customer communications opportunities along those lines in the near future.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's all of the questions that I have in the chat right now, but I personally was curious about what you see the best case shiny benefit scenario for AMI deployment looking like. What does the future look like with this data and with this technology?
You know, I think we've talked about a lot of the opportunities here. Maybe because of my background and the hours and days and weeks that I've spent in my 20+ years here at Dominion fighting storms, I'm personally most excited by the outage management stuff. It would be great to never have to lead a crew to a house that has lights again. That's really demoralizing after you've been fighting storms for multiple days. You know, you get to the end and that's what it's like at the very end, or it used to be like at the very end, is you're leading crews to houses that already have power and you could have been doing something productive if you knew. So that's just me personally. I think that's what you were asking. I'm probably most excited about the outage management, restoration management, and customer communication benefits from AMI.
Great, thanks. Do we have any additional questions from the group? We have one more actually. They asked, are there cybersecurity concerns around AMI?
I don't think that's how I would word it. You know, it is like any other computer or networking situation, there's inherent cybersecurity concerns, but the system is very well secured. It has been tested and tested and tested. It has been improved, and it's a very, very secure system. Stuff is encrypted. It is, you know, is very well locked down as to what and who can access the information from where on the system. So it is not something that keeps me up at night. I know our system is secure without question, but you know, just in the spirit of full disclosure, I mean, any computer system, there's always a certain amount of concern, right? But there are well-known techniques for securing them as well.